Kicking things off at numero uno, we have the Bot Propulsion Laboratory. Rex's default utility skill, Directive Disperse, fires off a sonic boom that weakens all enemies on hit. His alternate utility, the Bramble Volley, also fires off a sonic boom, but instead of weakening enemies, it deals 550% damage and heals Rex for each enemy hit. However, this is at the cost of 20% of his current HP. The sonic boom from both of these skills will send smaller enemies flying backwards and even some larger enemies as well. Looking at you, Mr. Clay Dune Strider. Dude's about to get more familiar with being in holes than Mr. Shia LaBeouf back in 2003. That's right, Stanley Yelnats didn't do nothing wrong. And while these techniques can be more lethal than a yellow spotted lizard on these enemies on Petrichor 5, the real benefit of both of these utility skills is the fact that not only can they launch Rex's enemies, but they can also launch Rex himself. That's right, Houston, we have a problem. This plant bot is going to the moon. The key trick to being a valuable employee at the Bot Propulsion Laboratory is recognizing the fact that the sonic boom will send Rex recoiling and flying in the direction opposite to which it is fired. So to all my cephalopods out there who already have this tech on lock, you can dip out. But for all those plebes out there who don't know how to propel themselves backwards, get your notepad out. Mastering this type of movement is key to playing Rex since his mobility is just straight up garbaccio otherwise, and although I love the plant bot, there's no way of getting around it. He is slow, bro. Oh my god, he makes those DSL turtles look like some speed demons. So if you want to avoid some Comcast high-speed internet commercial slander and avoid getting lumped in with the slow skis, then what you want to do is practice this movement and use it not only on the offensive to take down enemies and escape sticky situations, but also to reach those hard to get to places and loot up quickly. Make sure to keep those peepers peeled for the hard light afterburner red item, because picking one of these bad Larrys up is a free ticket to ride up onto Mithrix. That's right, this item, which provides an extra 2 charges of the utility skill, in Rex's case the Directive Disperser Bramble Volley, and can be used to pillar skip on the final stage, since the momentum from each of these bursts stacks. And although it's a little tricky to pull off, you can use these sonic booms back to back to back to launch yourself into the sky and take the shortcut to Schmithos. So to quote my boy Rex himself back on July 16th, 1969, after the first hard light afterburner moon landing, this is not just one small step for PlantBot, but 3 giant leaps for PlantBot kind. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, if you are rocking Bramble Volley, be careful using this technique because it does take away 20% of your current HP, so it can be a bit dangerous. So if you want to practice by using Directive Disperse, go ahead. Except don't do that because mama didn't raise no starbelly sneech. Bramble Volley all day, baby. For tip numero dos, we have the what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Rex's purple plant abilities, which include the Seed Barrage, Bramble Volley, and Tangling Growth, are typically stronger and deal more damage than his robot abilities. However, it comes with the caveat that each of these attacks does damage to Rex himself. It should also be said that this damage is a percentage of Rex's current health and is also countered by the fact that both Bramble Volley and Tangling Growth will heal Rex for every target hit, in addition to the fact that Rex's primary skill, Directive Inject, will heal Rex as well for 60% of the damage done. By rocking these purple plant abilities, you're signing yourself up for one of the more unique play styles in the game, as he's really different from all of the survivors. And although they do a lot more damage, you have to be much more tactical about when and where you use these abilities, because you constantly have to keep in mind the fact that they are taking away portions of your health. And if you use these at the wrong time, you can end up absolutely cooked. The key to this playstyle is keeping a close eye on your health bar and juggling using his damaging abilities with using his primary in order to heal, and also using Tangling Growth and Bramble Volley in big crowds of enemies so you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, so that the healing from these abilities outweighs that which is done to yourself. This is undoubtedly a much riskier playstyle than rocking the green abilities, but if you want to leave the rat race of life and just take it to the top, I'm talking Chef Remy style, becoming the lead chef at Gusteau's after being born into a peasant rat community. Then what you want to do to stack the odds in your favor is find the following items which have unique interactions with Rex's self-damaging abilities. First off, the Tougher Times, which has a chance to mitigate any damage, including the self-damage. Next up, the Repulsion Armor Plate, which gives you a flat reduction to the self-damage. The Med Kit, which will give you a delayed heal after taking damage, which includes the self-damage. And then also the Planula boss item, which is dropped by the Grandparent, which acts pretty similar to the Med Kit, but is an instantaneous heal. If you really have that propensity for risk-taking and want to transcend the rat race completely, perhaps attaining the power levels to train up 4 abandoned mutant turtles into martial arts maestros, then what you want to do is go the self-harm route and pick up the Old War Stealth Kit, Genesis Loop, and Razor Wire. The combination of these 3 is a bit of a dark synergy, as the Razor Wire will dish out additional damage to enemies every time you take damage, which includes that self-damage, and then the Old War Stealth Kit and Genesis Loop are only activated upon reaching below 25% HP. So what you can do is just spam his abilities, self-harming yourself until you get beneath that 25% threshold, in which case the Old War Stealth Kit will activate and turn you invisible to enemies and give you a movement speed boost, and then the Genesis Loop will fire off, meaning that any of those pesky nearby enemies will be absolutely bippity-bopped by 6,000% damage within a radius down to Electric Avenue. And last but not least, let's not leave out the party dude of the bunch, the Roll of Pennies, aka the Penny Mo, because with this bad boy, every time you take damage, you get Mo money. And you know what Mo money means? Mo pizza! Tip numero tres is the Healin Dealin. While in the previous tip we focused on healing after dealing self-damage, in this one we're flipping that coin around and talking about how to deal damage after some self-healing. And the key here to running the most notorious pill farm on Petrichor 5 is picking up the Enkuhana's Opinion. With this bad Larry equipped, Rex has the potential to deal more damage to the lower class community of Petrichor 5 by giving out healing medicine than Purdue Pharma back in 1996, dropping OxyContin and labeling it non-addictive. This is because the Enkuhana's Opinion stores 100% of your healing as soul energy, and then once that soul energy reaches 10% of your maximum health, you'll fire off a homing skull that will zero in on the nearest target, dealing 250% damage and taking them to the bone zone. To take things to the next level, though, seize control of the entire territory and become the Pablo Rexcobar, the cartel king, what you need to do is also pick up the Aegis and Rejuve. These 2 red items take you from good to busted, especially the Rejuve rack, which doubles your healing from all sources and essentially just doubles the damage from Enkuhanas as well. The Aegis, although not necessary, is helpful because it allows for overhealing, and any additional healing past your max health gets converted into a barrier shield, which helps with that survivability factor, especially when you got rival gangs slinging Broward County Tic Tacs trying to take you down. Coming in at numero cuatro, we have the Busted Root. Rex's purple special ability, the Tangling Growth, fires a flower that roots enemies for 200% damage and also heals for every target hit at the cost of 25% of your current HP. This bad boy is more valuable to Rex's kit than the last dandelion of the season because 1. It roots enemies in place and prevents them from moving and attacking you. 2. Deals damage. 3. Applies a status debuff. 4. Heals you for every enemy hit. 5. Lumps everybody together, making it super easy to get proc chains and area of effect damage. And 6, this thing lasts for like 10 seconds and any enemies not caught in the initial grab, like tangling grab or whatever, if they walk into this radius, they get sucked in as well. This thing is straight up busted. And I forgot to even mention the fact that it works on rooting Mithrix, the final boss himself, right in place, making him a sitting duck for Rex's Seed Barrage. If you're a mammal that cares about doing maximum damage though, what you want to do is pair this up with the Primordial Cube equipment item. What this does is generates a black hole which sucks all enemies into one spot, and then you can fire off Tangling Growth to just trap all those guys in one place. To make it even better, pair this with any of the proc chain trifecta items, the Will-o'-the-Wisp, ATG or Ukulele, as well as the gasoline or sticky bombs. And this is a recipe for disaster for all those plebes on Petrichor 5. But wait, there's more. If you want to deal continental levels of damage, I'm talking Scrat's Acorn that bisects the world type of activity, then what you want to do is keep your eyes peeled for the Death Mark. This item activates when you apply 4 or more debuffs to an enemy, and since Rex already has 2 built in, the Root from the Tangling Growth and the built-in Weaken from his primary ability, as long as you have 2 other items that apply unique debuffs such as Chrono or Tentabobble, the Tri-Tip Dagger or Needle Tick, or the Gasoline, Magma Perforator, or Mired Urn, just to name a few, then you can instantly increase your damage output by 50% once they're marked for death. And finally, rounding things off at numero 5, we have the Pillar Killer. This is a pretty niche tech, but if you use Tangling Growth and an enemy is on the other side of an object, the momentum from when it gets pulled in will deal damage as it collides with whatever object is in its way. Unfortunately, this is hard to put into practice, and there are very few situations where you can reliably pull this off. The exception to the rule, though, is on Siren's Call after destroying the eggs and summoning the hidden alloy worship unit boss. The key here to cheesing this dude and claiming yourself one of those free, tasty red items is firing off your Tangling Growth Bud onto this central pillar in the map where the alloy worship unit spawns in. To do this properly, you got to get that Euclidean geometry correct and make sure that the Tangling Growth Bud is on the opposite side of the pillar as to where the alloy worship unit currently is. So as long as you got that 9th grade geometry under your belt, you should be good to go, and that Tangling Growth should reach out, grab them, and take them to Slam Central Station. And now for a little bonus. Welcome to Rex's Item Emporium. We're just going to rapid fire go through some of the better items on Rex and stuff that you should absolutely be looking out for when playing as him. Kicking things off with the white items, the Paul's Goat Hoof and Energy Drink are absolutely essential on Rex. As I mentioned before, Rex's overall mobility is straight up butt cheeks, and if you want to make it slightly more tolerable, then picking up the Paul's Goat Hoof, which increases overall movement speed, and the Energy Drink, which increases sprinting speed, makes it a much more enjoyable experience. Next up are the Tougher Times, Repulsion Armor Plate, and Medkit. As mentioned earlier, these three are absolutely critical for dealing with Rex's unfortunate addiction to self-harm. Tougher Times offers a chance at blocking any form of incoming damage. Repulsion Armor Plate reduces incoming damage by a flat rate, and then Medkit will provide a 2-second delayed heal after taking any damage. Tri-Tip Dagger is a great pickup on Rex as well due to his high fire rate primary attack, which makes it easy to stack bleed, and this is just further improved by picking up either the Mocha Joka or Soldier's Syringe, which increases attack speed. And finally, Gasoline is a fantastic pickup because it not only applies a debuff and does damage, but is super easily spreadable between enemies and synergizes great with Tangling Growth. Moving on to the greens, but keeping on the theme of Tangling Growth, the holy trinity of proc chains, the Will-o'-the-Wisp, ATG, and Ukulele, are some of the best items to pair up with Rex's special ability. While each of them is good on its own, the combination of the three just gets absolutely nutty. Some other essential greens to look out for are the Wax Quail and Hopu Feather, which add some much needed additional jumping mobility to Rex's kit. The Hopu Feather, in my opinion, is one of the best items you can pick up as Rex because it offers that additional safety net when using his bot propulsion tech. As mentioned before, the Death Mark is a huge pickup given the fact that Rex has 2 baked-in debuffs to his abilities, so all you need to do is find 2 more and you instantly get a 50% increase on damage. And finally, the Old War Stealth Kit and Razor Wire work extremely well with his self-damaging abilities because Razor Wire deals damage every time you take damage, and the Old War Stealth Kit activates whenever your health drops below 25%. So if you get a little too trigger happy with his self-damaging abilities and all of a sudden your health dips a little too low, at least you have that get out of jail free card where you turn invisible to enemies and you can bop on out of there. This pairs perfectly with the Genesis Loop yellow item, which also fires off at 25% health or less, so using these two together is a bit of a wombo combo. And then, of course, the other yellow item that synergizes perfectly with Rex is the Planula, which offers an instantaneous flat healing every time you take damage, so basically a medkit, but better. For void items, the Lysate Cell, which offers an additional charge of the special skill, aka Tangling Growth, is straight busted just because you get an extra shot of that for every stack. And then also, Rex is one of the few characters who makes a particularly good use of the Singularity Band since Tangling Growth synergizes so well with its black hole effect. And then finally, for red items, we have Enkuhana's Aegis and Rejuvrak for all the reasons listed in the Healin Dealin section. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let me know down below any of your Rex tips or anything I might have missed. Thanks for tuning on in, and we'll catch you next time. Adios, amigos.